Hello everyone, I'm Tim Martinez with the Disco Dish. I'm out here in the garden picking some fresh green chili. I've had a couple of questions about chili. Do you plant a red chili plant? Do you plant a green chili plant? Well, it all comes from one plant, and this is a native Velarda chili plant. And the immature chili is the green chili, and that's what a lot of people know. We roast it at this point of year, and we put it away in our freezer, and we eat it fresh. This is where the green chili is. Now, if you let the chili stay on the plant longer and let it mature, it turns red. And here we have the red mature chili. Comes from the same plant. The green turns to red. And this is where we get our red chili powder from, our red chili enchilada sauce. And so 2 chilies, same plant. And that leads us into today. We're going to be making a green chili stew on the disco. And so here's our ingredients that we will be using today. We have some fresh garlic, some garlic salt, onion powder, black pepper, and a little bit of Mexican oregano. That's gonna season our pork. That's gonna be the base of our stew. We're gonna use some white onion, some celery, homegrown tomatoes, of course Velarda green chili, and potatoes. Then we have 2 mason jars for the liquid. We're also going to start off using, on a hot disco, the manteca. Perfect. Now, while the manteca is melting on this hot disco, I want to remind you that we used this red chili in a previous recipe, the red chili pork. So check it out. But today, let's get started on our green chili stew. Now that the disco is nice and hot, we're gonna add our base, pork. Okay, so we're gonna lightly season. I like to throw in some couple of big cloves of garlic. With a pinch of garlic salt. Big pinch of onion salt, black pepper of course, and a little bit of Mexican oregano, and we're seasoned. So what we want to do with the hot disco, high heat, we want to put that crust on the pork. So we're going to cook it high heat, crust on the pork, and then we'll add some other ingredients. We're going to add our onions and celery. High heat now though, you can smell the pork cooking, that crust on, you can smell the spices that we're using, so we know we're going in the right direction for sure. So that's what we're looking for, a little bit of char, brownness. We're gonna cook it a little bit longer. Then we're gonna add our onions and celery. Cook those, high heat of course. They're gonna get those a little bit translucent, a little bit clear, and then we're gonna go from there. And now it's time to add our white onion and our celery. So what we want to do now, let this cook down a little bit. We want to let those white onions kind of go, like kind of see-through, translucent. We want to cook down that celery a little bit. I cut my celery a little bit larger, because in the cooking process, things will shrink, get smaller, and fall apart. So I start with the bigger celery piece, but it's all gonna cook down and marry together real well. I also have some fresh tomatoes from the garden, but I'm not gonna put those in quite yet because cooking them too long, they'll just disintegrate and you'll never see them in the stew. And so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna grab a little bit of green chili. I'm gonna add some green chili to this base with no water or anything like that. That green chili is gonna cook and infuse with the pork, the onions, and the celery. Probably disappear just into flavor on that, and we'll save our bigger, more green chili at the tail end so we can see it when we scoop it. Okay, so what we're looking for is, you can see those onions, they're turning clear. That's what we're looking for. These are softening up, turning a little bit clear. So we're right on track. So I'm gonna add a scoop or two of green chili. This is probably good with the heat and the early cooking, putting in early in the recipe. It's probably gonna disintegrate, but it's gonna add a lot of flavor. There we go. And we're gonna mix that in. So we're gonna mix that green chili in there, let that heat up, let that infuse the pork and the celery and the onions. And then right before we put in our stock, our water, we're gonna put in those tomatoes. It's gonna add some color. Everything's gonna start coming together. You'll see the vividness of all the green, the red from the tomatoes, and the smell. So we're doing really well. So at this point, we let it cook down. You still have a lot of heat coming up. I'm gonna add the tomatoes in there, mix that around just real quick. Then I'm gonna add our water, and then we're gonna add the potatoes. I want everybody to take a look at this. This looks good as it is. We have pork, we have the green from the celery, we have a little bit of green chili that we can still see. We have those white onions in there. Watch the vividness when we add these homegrown tomatoes. Look at that. Just the colors are making it appetizing. And now we're ready for our water and our potatoes. So what I have here, just 2 mason jars full of water. Sometimes you can add a little bit of flavor to your water, a chicken bouillon, chicken stock or whatever, which is perfectly fine. We're using regular water here. We're gonna add it in quite a bit because we're gonna simmer it down. We're gonna have a lot of water at the beginning, and then through the cooking process, the water's gonna evaporate and we're gonna cook it down. So now we have high heat, of course. We got some boiling going. We're gonna add the potatoes and let those cook down. It's looking good and it's smelling good, people. So basically what we're doing now, we just add the potatoes. Raw, of course, so we're gonna let that cook. High heat, let that boil a little bit, then we may turn it down to simmer a little bit. Then we're gonna let those potatoes cook. And right before the potatoes are fully cooked, we're gonna add in the final green chili for the dish. We brought everything up to a rapid boil. What I'm gonna do now, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. We're going to go down to a simmer. We're going to let some of that water evaporate off. Little tidbit here, have another jar of water just in case, because if too much evaporates, you want to add a little bit of water. We want to keep it in the stew style. So what I'm going to do, turn down the heat, let the potatoes cook for about 25-30 minutes, then we'll add in our green chili. Push and pull. There you go. Push and pull. One day, my son. One day.
Not me.
Remember about that piece of advice I gave you? Well, we're going to use it. Got a little bit low, so we're going to put a little bit more water in there. Perfect. So it's been on a light boil for about 15 minutes, so we want to check the potatoes. So the way I check, I just pull one off to the side, use the side of my spatula, and try and split it. It seemed to cut pretty easily, but it's not really super soft. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna let it cook for another 7 to 8 minutes, check again, and I think we're gonna be right there. hit that point where we're gonna have the star of the show, of course, is the green chili. We put it in late because we don't want it to disintegrate, because it's a soft flesh and it'll just go away. So we're gonna put it here at the tail end, but now it's gonna infuse all within the whole stew. That's where we get our green chili stew. Seems like our ingredients are marrying nicely. We're smelling that good wintry green chili stew smell. So we're on the right track, and we'll see how it turns out. Letting it simmer for about 20-25 minutes. So let's check the potatoes again, see how they're going. Let's pull a potato and we'll cut it with the spatula and see how it goes. Yep, went right through. Potatoes are getting tender, means we're right on track. And another sign is I'm smelling the green chili stew aroma. Not just the celery, not just the pork, not just the tomatoes. It's all coming together to that aroma of the green chili stew. So all the signs are there. Everything's cooked, the time is put in, but the only true test is to taste it. Try and get a potato. So we have the pork, the green chili, and a potato. Let's see how it came out. It's all there, people. You can taste the green chili, the tenderness of the pork. I even got a little bit of tomato, and so it's all married together into that green chili stew. Now this green chili stew does great on its own on a cold winter's day. A lot of people like to add maybe a fried egg on top. They like to put cheese on top of it. You always have to have a warm flour tortilla with it. But here's my green chili stew. And that's the disco dish.